Hi, my name is Ramon, and let's learn some Sitecore programming. Today, let's talk about setting up Sitecore and MVC. Let's work on some assumptions here. Number one is ASP.NET Framework 4.5 is already installed on our system. Number two is MVC 3 is already also installed. And number three is you should have downloaded Sitecore 6.6 revision 12.10.15, which is the zip archive of the CMS site root. Let's go through the steps here. First is we need to extract the Sitecore zip file that we got from SDN to a folder on the C called Web Apps. So here in my setup, I already have the unzip of the Sitecore CMS. I'm just going to copy that to my C web folder. It takes a while because it's there's a lot of files in here. And then as soon as the copying is done, I would rename the file to rename the folder to something that's simple, perhaps like Sitecore MVC. Okay, so it's now done. I'm gonna just go ahead and rename that and call it Sitecore MVC. So now we have our files in the CMS folder. And let's check the files, making sure that everything is in there. I'm on the website folder, the database folder. This is where all the NDV and LDF are going to be stored, and we have the data folder. Okay. Secondly, let's go ahead and restore the databases to SQL Server. So first, I'm going to open up SQL Management Studio. I'm going to log in to my SQL Server. Expand the database and see what's in there. I'm going to right click and say attach. Then I'm going to locate the MDF. Web apps, Sitecore MVC, database. I'm going to start with the Sitecore.core MDF. I'm going to maximize this and make sure that the log is there also. Click add and add the master MDF. Just check that the log is set correctly, and then lastly I'm going to add the web, and then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So as you can see, I already have my three databases in here. The next step are about renaming web configs. The idea is we have to rename, or we have to use the MVC web config and back up the original web config. And then we have to enable the MVC related web configs in the app connection, in the app config under the include folder. So let's go ahead and do the renaming. So I'm gonna go inside my website folder, and I'm gonna locate the original web config, and then I'm gonna go ahead and rename this to that back, which is backs up the file, and then I'm gonna rename the this one here, just remove the MVC so that we'll use this there. And then I'm gonna go inside the app config, and inside the includes, you'll find the series of MVC related configuration. And if you look at it, they're actually, the extensions are disabled so that they are not being processed. So what we need to do is rename this and basically just remove the disabled text so that you'll have the .config at the end. I'm gonna do the analytics, and there we already have enabled the MVC related web configs, and also we now are using the MVC web config. The next couple of steps are about copying files to a folder. Step number 9 is copying the license file to the data folder, and step number 10 is copying the MVC DLL files to the bin folder. So let's go ahead and do it. First is I'm gonna locate the I'm gonna locate my license file, which is this one here, and I'm gonna copy that one to the data folder, which is the folder on the same level as the web. So this is the data folder. So I'm gonna put that one there. I'm gonna copy it. And the next step is to copy this DLLs here to the bin folder. So what I'll do is I'm gonna switch my view here, and I'm gonna, okay, so this is my source and this is my destination. As you can see, it's the bin underscore net4 folder, and the destination is the bin folder. I'm gonna go ahead and highlight this and copy them, and that's it. If I look at the bin folder, I should see the 4 files in there. The next step is to create a empty MVC web app and then move the files and folders that are related to MVC to our Sitecore project, and then create a solution file. So let's go ahead and do it. So I'm going to open up my Visual Studio, and then I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to select C# and ASP.NET MVC, and then I'm going to supply a name. I'm going to call it Sitecore MVC. Click next. On the template, I'll select an empty template. I'll keep the defaults. Click OK. And then it will create my Sitecore MVC project. So you can see this is my project. So the next step is for me to copy the files. So let me open up the folder. I'm gonna go to the project, and this is my Sitecore MVC folder. I'm gonna open that. I'm gonna go to the web, and so on my left, this is the empty MVC project, and on my right, this is the Sitecore project. So I'm gonna go ahead and select the files that I need to move over. I'm gonna select this, the app data. I'm going to skip bin. I'm going to select content, controller, model. I'm going to skip object, property, script, views, and I'm going to select the global ASAX and the code behind for that. I'm going to skip packages. I'm going to select the sys project file and skip the rest of the files. So I'm going to go ahead and copy those over to my Sitecore MVC. Just going to click override. Okay, so as you can see, they are now in my Sitecore folder. The next step is to open up this project here in Visual Studio. So I'm going to bring in Visual Studio. I'm going to close this solution and I'm going to open up the project. I'm going to locate, I'm going to go through my Sitecore project. It's under web apps, Sitecore MVC, website, and I'm going to select this one here. I'm going to click open on that. And as you can see, it's already here. I'm just going to remove all the files that are not here. The package and debug and release. And then I'm gonna show all files as you can see it's all the files in my Sitecore folder. And then I'm gonna save this. I'm gonna save the solution. Save solution. I'm gonna try closing this. And then it'll ask me to save the solution file, so I'm gonna say yes. And I'm gonna put it right in here. This is where I want to put the solution file. Click save. There. If we look at the folder, if we review the folder, we already have the solution file, and we have also the different folders that we copied from the MVC project. There is one more thing that we have to do, and that is to review the other DLLs that we might need from the MVC project. So I'm gonna go and open up the bin folder of the MVC project, and I'm gonna open up the bin folder also on my Sitecore project. And looking at my MVC project, I'm gonna go ahead and just copy entity framework because I think there are some references to this DLL in the global ASAX. So I'm gonna go ahead and copy that, and it's there. The Microsoft Web Infrastructure, I think that's there already. The helpers, it's there. The MVC, the providers, I'm gonna skip that. The razors already there, the web pages, the pages deployment, and the razor. I think we're good with this one for now. Okay, let's try to compile our Sitecore MVC project. So I'm gonna open up the solution file, which I already have in here, this one here. And then let's go ahead and see if we could compile this. I'm gonna click on rebuild solution. And as you can see, it's a success. The next step is to set up our data folder in the web config, and followed by setting up our connection string, and followed by setting up a Sitecore DB user for our Sitecore databases. So let's go ahead and walk through the process. First, I'm gonna figure out the data folder. So as you can see, this is my Sitecore root folder. And if I click on this one, there is a folder called data. So I'm gonna use this will be our data folder. Well, with that information, I would go to the web config of the project. I'm gonna open that, and then I'm gonna locate the data folder um, settings or variables, and then I'm gonna change this to point to the data folder we just identified earlier. So in my case, it's C web apps Sitecore MVC slash data. I'm going to save that, and we're done with that part. The next part is to set up um, the connection string. But I think before we can do that, let's set up a Sitecore database user. So let's proceed with that, and I'm gonna open up my SQL Management Studio here. A file. I'm gonna connect to my database where my Sitecore databases are, and then I'm gonna create a new login called Sitecore. I'm gonna say SQL authentication. I'm gonna supply a password. Make sure that the password that you provided complies with the password policy. Otherwise, it will complain that password is not sufficient. I'm gonna set the default database to Sitecore core. Server role. I'm gonna make this a I'm gonna keep that as is. User mapping. I'm gonna map this user as a DB owner to our Sitecore databases. DB owner, DB owner, and lastly the Sitecore web. Okay, and I'm just gonna click on the next page here and making sure that it's enabled, and I think I'm done. And there we have our Sitecore user created. Next is we have to set the connection string with this for this Sitecore user. So I'm gonna open up Visual Studio again, and I'm gonna navigate to my web project. In the app config folder, there is a connection string .config. I'm gonna open this, and I'm gonna put in the information from the Sitecore DB user we created earlier. In this case, it's called Sitecore. The password I supplied was demo at 2119, and the server is Ramon Scenario D871. So I'm gonna do a copy paste here to speed this one up. Okay. There. I'm just gonna review it, making sure that there's no typo. Okay, I think I'm good. So we're gonna save this, and we're okay for now. Before we move on to the last few steps, there are some things that we have to verify on our end just to make sure that everything is set up correctly. First is we need to make sure that the Sitecore DB user that we created is actually the DB owner of the Sitecore databases. And secondly, I would just add, for the purpose of this demo, I would just add network service to the to our web root. So let's go ahead and walk through those things. So first is I'm going to open up Visual Studio. I'm going to connect to my database, and then I'm going to open up the properties for the Sitecore DB user, and go to the user mapping. Make sure that it's actually the DB owner of the Sitecore database. Otherwise, we'll get a permission denied when we run the site. So in this case, I have everything set. So I'm going to click OK. Disconnect. Secondly, I'm just going to go ahead and right click on this one and go to the security options. And make sure that you have network service with full control. Again, for the purpose of this demo, I'm setting network service with full control. Click OK. And so let's go ahead and walk through the final steps. So the next thing that we have to do is we need to create a web app in IIS. So I'm going to open the IIS manager here, and by default we have this single site which is called website. I'm just going to stop that so that it doesn't interfere with the one that I'm creating now. I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to call it Sitecore MVC, and then for the physical path I'm going to set it to our web root, which is under web apps, Sitecore, and the website. Click OK. I'm going to accept the defaults here, and then it will give me this information that I'm using port 80, which is used by another website. I'm just going to click yes because I have already disabled the default website. I'm going to click on the new site that I've created. You know what, I'm going to go to the application pool and check if it's using the framework 4.0, which it is. So I'm going to click OK, and then going back there, I'm going to click browse. So okay, so I just click on browse. From here I click on browse, and this is what I got, which tells us that it's actually picking up our Sitecore installation is actually picking up MVC because it's complaining that we have an illegal route. So for now, to fix this, is I'm gonna open up global ASAX because this is where it was defined, and I'm just gonna comment that one out. So on line 26, I'm gonna comment that out. And then I'm gonna refresh the site again. Oh, I need to compile it. And there, we have our site now running on MVC, configured with MVC. And I'm going to log in to Sitecore backend. Now I'm using Internet Explorer 10. It might be that Sitecore has not had any chance to see what breaks on this newer version of the IE. So, but I'm just gonna go ahead and see it for myself. Okay, there I'm logged in. For some reason, it doesn't have my image here, so I'm just gonna log off, and it's giving me a script error. Again, this is IE 10, so I'm not sure if they have already support for this one. So I'm gonna open up Chrome and open this in Chrome. So in Chrome, everything seems to be working. I have everything working in Chrome. Content editor's loading fine. So, and site is working fine. Okay. So I think that concludes our um, demo for this one, for this particular um, scenario or particular piece. I think the next step, which I'm gonna create another blog about it, is how do we create a simple hello world to test the MVC in Sitecore. Okay, I'm gonna see you later on the next demo. Thank you. Bye bye.